scared is the only word I can use. And that's not an exaggeration. I was genuinely scared because there's no easy way to leave the witnesses. You can leave, but you're going to lose everybody you know and love in that process. So then you have to ask yourself, is it worth it? Should I stay and pretend like I believe when I really don't? Or should I leave and lose everyone I love, but get myself and my freedom?
Hey, what's up, guys? It's Ex-Morgan with My Spiritual Life, and I'm so excited because today I have a really special guest. Her name is Rae, and she's an ex-Jehovah's Witness. And I'm so excited to hear about her story. And I'm especially excited because her story isn't like she was born into it, but she actually joined it as a teenager. So we're going to get like a very special perspective about joining it, you know, the first look of it all, and then sticking with it for a while, and then deconstructing and leaving. Rae, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Yay. Okay, you can find Rae on TikTok. That's where I found Rae. And she also will have an email that we're going to put below if you want to reach out to her. Hey, Rae, so just take me to the beginning. Whatever is relevant kind of to the beginning of, like, was it a friend that introduced you to the witnesses, or how did this all start?
So it's going to be one of those stories. It was my boyfriend. My boyfriend, at the time, he was a Jehovah's Witness. His mom was disfellowshipped for years, so he knew about it growing up.
Right.
He just wasn't around it. So I guess around the time that we met, that's when they got back into it. So
Gotcha.
we're dating. He's going to the hall. We dated for like 2 years, and then we were having a debate because we wanted to build a life together, but we couldn't do it if he was a witness and I was a Baptist at the time. So he was like, I asked him if he could come to my church. He said no. And then after fighting me, he was like, how about you come visit, the Kingdom Hall? So, I'm open, I want my relationship to work.
Right,
So
right.
I go, and it's not terrible. So it is.
Okay, wait. Tell me how old you are at this time too. Are you like 16 at the time? 17?
I'm 16.
You're so
Going to the
young,
hall.
yeah.
Well,
Right.
how cults get you is, like you said, they get you when you're in a vulnerable state.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. And there's nothing more vulnerable than being a teenager.
a 16-year-old 16-year-old girl, and I was moving from house to house. I wasn't living at home. I wasn't, like, my mom and dad, we weren't talking at the time. I was moving from
Wow.
cousin to aunt to my grandma, like a
Right,
lot
right.
of instability. So when I went to the Kingdom Hall, they had a lot of rules. And
Right.
although it's overwhelming, at the time it's appealing because it provides a sense of stability.
Structure.
So
Yes.
gives
Yeah.
you
It
it
makes
was
you
a
feel safe.
structure, and I
Yeah.
felt safe. So although it was wild,
Right.
it felt good to be in there at that time. So
Absolutely.
yeah, that's
Absolutely.
how I got in. Obviously, the relationship didn't work, but yeah, that's how I got in it.
So tell me, you start going and you start, you're having these, like, people what are they teaching you? Like, what's that process look like? What are they meeting with you one-on-one? Like, how does that look as, like, someone who isn't a member? How are they trying to integrate you into the church?
So the first thing they do is love bomb. Any new person that comes into the Kingdom Hall, you are instructed to meet with that person, talk with them, introduce yourself, get to know them, be very personable. That's what happened. I went to that Kingdom Hall. Everybody wanted to talk to me. Everybody seemed like they wanted to be my friend.
Right. It's gotta make you feel important, you know?
Yeah,
Like, all these people, like, want you there. It's gotta be this, like, really surreal experience.
it is, and it's different than church because church, I've gone my whole life, and sometimes you can walk in and not one person will speak to you. So
Right, right,
it's nice to go to a place and everybody is in your face and talking to you. So you're building these connections. You feel like a family. And then, of course, after that, people want to study with you. So
right,
I met a girl there. She's my age. She picked me up to study. And how they do it is every week you will meet with that person and maybe one other person. Every week
right,
you'll sit and you'll study the Bible teach book. What does
right.
the Bible really teach? Along with the Bible, and you go basically go through this whole entire book where they tell you what your Bible means, what it says,
Like, interpretations of it.
like their interpretations, but they
Gotcha.
make it seem like it's not an interpretation, but matter it's a fact. You know, this is
Yes,
what the
like,
Bible
this is
says.
what it really means, and, like,
Right,
this is the truth. Right, right.
right.
I
That's
understand.
how it comes across, and so you
And these
really
are,
start to
like,
do it.
oh, absolutely. And these are, like, little private Bible studies, like, held at your house, or
Yes, you can have them at your house. My grandmother wouldn't allow me to have them at her house.
Right, right.
So we had to have it at the park, at the library, sometimes in the car, just outside my house,
Wow.
and sometimes her house.
Right.
So they make sure that you get that Bible study.
Oh my gosh. So was there kind of a turning point? Because you said you walked in at first and you're like, "Ah, it's okay," and then everyone's being all nice to you and you're like, "Okay, like, okay."
Mhm.
Like, was there kind of this, like, "Yeah, like, I'm in" moment? Like, did you, like, pray to God? Like, was there a spiritual experience? Like, what happened? Or was it just kind of a gradual, like
It was gradual because as I'm going through this book, where I've always been a Bible reader, so I'm going through this book and I'm finally understanding what my Bible says, and it felt you start to really trust it. The first 5 chapters of the Bible teach book is who is God, who is Jesus, what is paradise, very generic things.
right.
So you start to trust them
Yeah,
because this is stuff that you learn in church, to a degree. So
right.
you're like, oh, they didn't lie to me about this. So yeah, and you start to trust them, and then you start to trust the people that's studying with you. Y'all become friends. It's
Yeah.
like, oh, they're my
Right.
friend. They wouldn't lie to me. Like, like
Right,
the next
right.
thing you know, I'm dedicated. Like in my heart, I'm dedicated. Like I'm gonna get baptized. I'm gonna serve Jehovah. I'm gonna be a pioneer. Da 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 da.
Right. So tell me, like, that process of officially becoming a Jehovah's Witness, is that marked at baptism, or like what is the kind of coming into the program?
So technically, it's at baptism, but you start to be viewed as a Jehovah's Witness when you start going out in service. You can go, and that's
Field service,
field
yeah.
service. That's
Wait,
that's when you go door to door.
yes, I was gonna say we should probably explain any jargon terms because people might not know. I might not know. And yeah, field service, it's kind of the equivalent with Mormonism where like missionaries are the ones that do the door knocking, whereas Jehovah's Witness, it's every member of the congregation that does it.
Yeah.
And from what I understand, I don't know if you know anything about this, but I've heard that Jehovah's Witnesses frown on Mormons the way they do it because they're like lazy because they like go away from their family to knock on doors because they're embarrassed. Have you ever heard stuff like that?
Yes. So we talk about you guys so much because we see y'all and we think you guys are crazy. We're like, why do they have to travel all over the place to just preach the message? They can just preach. And why is it only
Right.
males? And why do they look like that? Like we really talk about y'all and we think you guys are crazy.
Oh my gosh, we're gonna have to do an entirely other video talking about Mormons' perception of Jehovah's Witness and Jehovah's Witness perception
I
of
want
Mormons.
to know.
That
I
would be
want to know.
hilarious.
It's
That would be
so
hilarious. Oh, that would be such a fun discussion. All right, people, watch out for that.
yes.
Comment, tell Ray to come back. Okay,
Yes.
so you're going to the meetings. You feel like as soon as you're doing field service, people kind of consider you part of the group.
Right.
And you started doing field service. You were 16, 17 at the time?
At this time, I'm 17. So once you start going out in service, you're considered an unbaptized publisher. So
it's just a funny term.
Unbaptized publisher. That is the term. And you basically are held to the same standards as baptized witnesses.
Got it.
The only difference is if you decided to, I don't know, sleep with someone, you wouldn't get this fellowship. You just wouldn't be an unbaptized publisher.
Got
and
it.
That's it. So
I see. So the difference really is just like in like sin, kind of like punishment for sin.
Punishment.
I got it. I got you. I got you. Okay, so how was your first experience with field service?
So it was interesting. I did get a door slammed in my face. I was a little hurt.
It would be really hard not to be hurt by that. Yeah, it's hard.
A big slam too. I was starting off my first little, and they were just like, go away and slam the door. And, I don't think witnesses don't talk to a lot of people at the door, surprisingly.
Right.
Most people don't answer. So you kind of just spend your time talking to your friends. That's what you normally do.
Like walking together to knock on doors that people don't
We were talking about boys while walking in houses. Like we weren't talking about anything spiritual. We were talking about guys.
Oh my gosh, that's funny. Like you were building all these like serious bonds with people, even amidst all these like, I'll say like, cult activities,
Like you feel really close to them because, at this time I had stopped talking to my family. So because they're worldly and worldly are anyone who's not a Jehovah's Witness. So
tell me more about that. Like, how did your family react to you learning about it and then, joining?
My family, they're funny. They allow people to go through things as learning lessons. I don't think anybody expected me to be there for 10 years. I think that was the kicker. But they were all kind of, my cousin and I went to a Broadway show recently, and she told me that she honestly was hurt by, she's like 19 now. And she said she was hurt when I went to the witnesses and kind of stopped talking to everybody because she felt like we were so close. And now you're gone. And even when I did talk to them, she said I sounded like a robot. Like I was being, So I felt really bad, and I apologized to her so much. But it was hard. They knew that I was getting into something that I didn't want to get into, but they didn't know how to get me out. And it's hard to get out. So.
Well, what are they going to do? Hold you down and be like, you're brainwashed? Like you're not gonna listen. You're not gonna believe them. You're just gonna think that Satan is getting them to do that.
Because everybody who isn't a Jehovah's Witness is in Satan's world and controlled by Satan. So
it really is that thing where you have to want to leave, and it's so hard because like you just want to scream it from the rooftop. Once you've like realized that's not true, you just want to be like, you guys. Like to your friends that are still in, like, it's not true, but they won't hear you. They won't. If anything, it'll just scare them, and it's crazy. So tell me,
persecution complex,
yeah, it just solidifies them deeper. So tell me what it was like, do you remember much about like kind of shunning your own family as you joined? Like, was that hard, or because the relationships were already sound like they were kind of rocky? Was it like just kind of like like gradually letting it go, or what was that like?
It was like it was both easy and hard. Like it was some of the ones that I wasn't close with, it was kind of easy. But the ones that I was, it hurt. And like I would still talk to them, but I had to talk to them. I wasn't allowed to be like super close to them because you don't want to be, you don't want to steer away from Jehovah is the fear.
Yeah.
So they say you can talk with your family, but you can't be like super close to them because they don't serve Jehovah. It's
Yeah.
weird. So
Yeah,
it's like
for
it's like I
sure.
would talk to my family, but it was a barrier. So
Right, right. Just very shallow. Gotcha.
very shallow, very shallow.
So was your boyfriend excited about you joining? Like,
You would think so. He's weird. I don't know. It'd be funny if he found this video. He's gonna be like, wow. He's a very what I call low maintenance witness. Whereas he believes in
gotcha.
everything, but he's also very like, do you? So
Oh, that's strange, huh? That I
he's not
find
a
that.
strict witness.
Say that again.
He's not a strict witness. He's like, yeah,
Yeah.
whatever.
I found that always such a strange thing because you get that in Mormonism too. But I was such a gung ho Mormon that I always like I didn't understand that. I still like feel like I don't understand that. I'm like, wait, how can you believe this is true? But like not take it so
So
seriously. I'm like,
serious.
I don't get it.
I was a die-hard witness. You cannot tell me that the witnesses didn't have the truth. Like
Right, right.
die-hard.
Oh my gosh. I love hearing that because I do feel like I don't know if you get this at all, but in Mormonism we get this kind of like you left because you never really believed. And I'm like, no, I was a die-hard Mormon. Like I believed it. Like I did all the things I was supposed to, and because I wanted to. Like I loved, try to get my friends to come to church and baptize them and reading the Book of Mormon, like praying and going to the temple and all these things. And like I really believed it at the time. And I think they like to think you never really believed it because, like, if you really believed it, you never would have left. Is there like an equivalent of that kind of thing with Jehovah's Witnesses?
Yes, it's similar to you. They either say that you didn't really truly believe it, or you are just spiritually weak and you gave in to
Yeah.
the temptation. Like
You just wanted to sin, is what we say. You
when
wanted
I
to sin.
left, they all said I
You
just
wanted
wanted
to.
to sin, and I was like, or
Oh my
or
God.
I could just not believe it anymore.
You know what it was? Here's what it was, Ray. I just wanted to drink coffee, and you just wanted to have a birthday party.
That's all I wanted. First off, coffee.
I know. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, for the most part, Jehovah's Witnesses are stricter than Mormons, but Mormons have some rules that are just weird.
That's
Like no
pretty.
coffee, no tea, but you can drink as much Mountain Dew as you want. That's the great news.
So coffee and teas no, but Mountain Dew perfectly fine.
Golden.
I don't understand, but okay.
We'll talk about it in a whole nother video.
Yes. Yes.
Oh my God. Okay, so you're 17, you're fully integrated, you get baptized, all that. You start living your life as a Jehovah's Witness. What happens next? Like what do you like about it? What's the experience like for you?
The best thing about being a witness is the people. So
Oh, yeah.
it is, even to this day,
Yeah.
even though, none of them talk to me and I have my own beef with them because of that.
Yeah.
When things were good, things were good. They were supportive, helpful, for the most part, especially in the beginning. In the
Yeah.
beginning, everything is really nice. You got all of these friends, they all want to know you. And it's nice to know that, soon all of the, evilness of the world is going to be done away with, and we're going to
Right.
live in paradise, and it's going to be, I get my own pet shark because I want my pet shark. Everybody wants a lion, I want a shark. Anyway, We get the animals aren't gonna attack us no more, and and we're just gonna live under God on earth in happiness forever. Like it's a nice idea.
Right,
You know.
right.
Yeah.
Especially,
You feel good.
yeah, especially I feel like it's so enticing, especially for someone who um maybe didn't have the securest family life growing up, to have that assurance of like, hey, like everything's gonna be okay, and here's why. Must have been such a relief in some ways, I imagine.
It's like it felt like someone was giving you like the biggest and warmest hug.
Yes,
Like,
yes.
and they tell you you lost all of your family, but we're your family now, and you really believe
Right.
it. Yeah,
Yeah, they become that in a sense, like,
they
when you
do.
because you spend all your time with them, they become your family, and
Right,
that
and you
makes it
can't really talk to the outside world, so you can't make friends with your coworkers or your neighbors. So
right,
all we
right,
have is each other. So
right, right.
yeah.
I have a quick question about the whole friends thing, because in Mormonism, it's not quite as explicit as it is in Jehovah's Witness. It's like, oh, your closer friends, like, and especially like whoever you marry really should be Mormon. But they're like, but it's okay to have friends at school. It's okay to have friends at work. That's fine. It's
You
not
can
a
do
big
that?
deal. Yeah, yeah. I know you should have joined Mormonism. Would have, like,
Right. I joined the wrong one.
you did. You joined the very wrong one. Honestly, I've looked into so many cults, and it just makes me grateful that I grew up Mormon, and like it was still the hardest thing ever leaving, but like I'm luckily it's just not as bad as a lot of what's out there. So I'm grateful, and Jehovah's Witnesses are up there. So my heart goes out to you. So with as far as friends go though, but with Mormonism, it's like it's almost like you have more of an opportunity to convert people if they are your friend, because then they see you go in church and you can invite them to church and stuff. So like, how did that work as a witness? You're not supposed to be friends with people, but like, how do you get them to go to church then if you can't be their
It's like
friend?
you're friendly, but
Got it.
you be a nice person. Be friendly, be nice, be personable. But you can't you couldn't go to their houses or spend the night or go out with them. No. Like if you're at
Got it.
work, you talk to them at work. And
Got it.
even then, if you're not preaching to them, because that's the ultimate goal, you feel guilty if you don't preach to them.
Right.
So you
Right.
have to preach to them. And if you're not preaching to them, then you're kind of wasting your time being
Yeah.
friends with somebody, because they say that anybody who isn't a witness is going to die at Armageddon.
Oh
So it's
yeah.
kind of like
Jesus gonna come down and zap them at Armageddon.
yeah, it's like, why do we need to be friends with people who are going to die? Like, it sounds
That's such
horrible
a
when
good
you say
point.
it.
No, it's true though. It's like it is a really like it's a hard thing of like, yeah, these are not my people, right? And these are not good people. And it's a scary thing. So you said like you would feel guilty if you didn't preach to them. Why would you feel guilty? Tell me like what would go through your head, or what teachings made you feel that way?
So witnesses teach that we have to save everybody,
Right.
from Armageddon. So if we are speaking with someone and we don't preach to them, the the talks that are given are basically saying that I would be blood guilty, meaning like that's how they. So
It's
there's
just such a
it's
scary term.
like it's like if you talk to this person and you just talked about, I don't know, movies, and you
Right.
didn't bring up Jehovah, and you never bring up Jehovah ever again, then you are blood guilty. Like their blood is on your hands. And
Right.
that's how they kind of like the talks, the videos that they make, the conventions, 3-day conventions, 2-day conventions, 1-day conventions, where they tell you it's important that you preach to people everywhere you go, the grocery store, the laundromat, preach, preach,
Wow.
preach, preach. Yeah.
I imagine you just go around with all this guilt all the time, because like
All
it's
the
so
time.
hard to talk that much about it. And especially when it's so socially frowned upon, because it really is. It's very socially frowned upon to preach to people, especially people you don't know. So I imagine you just go around feeling guilty all the time.
Because it's like you have to basically be uncomfortable with having uncomfortable conversations all the time. Sometimes
Yeah.
you just want to talk. I didn't want to preach. I just wanted to talk. And it's like you can't really do
Right.
that.
Oh,
It was
isn't
hard.
that so sad? Because you're such a personable person and like clearly you love people and you enjoy talking with people and getting to know them and like that must have been so hard to have that part of you like be bad, you know?
Yeah, it was hard because, like, especially like my coworkers, they're so nice and friendly, and I always had to be like a barrier. They would want to talk to me, and I'm like, I don't want to, I didn't want to talk because
Right.
I felt blood guilty if I talked to you and I didn't preach to you. So my way is just don't
Oh my
talk.
gosh, that totally makes sense. That must have been so hard.
It's
So
kind of sad.
So tell me about your experience, like, you were a Jehovah's Witness for a long time. What was field service like for all of that time? Like, how often did you do it? Was it every week? Was it every day? How was that for you?
So it depends what type of witness you are. So
Gotcha.
there's a thing called a zealous publisher. Or you can be a regular schmegular publisher where you will go out for 2 hours on Saturday in the morning. But if you were a zealous person like me, you would go out twice during the week for about 4 to 5 hours each day, and then you would do at least 2 to 5 hours during the weekend. Um,
Wow.
yeah, or if you're a regular pioneers do 70 hours a month of preaching, um, and auxiliary pioneers do 50 hours a month of
Wow.
preaching. I was
That's
a regular
crazy.
pioneer for 3 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that's so crazy to me. Like, tell me, how did you motivate yourself to go out and do that? Because that sounds so difficult to do to, like, a lay person like me, you know? Um, that sounds so difficult, but I imagine that there's also this caveat of it made you feel so good about yourself, I imagine, because 'cause you're like, "Oh, yeah, like, I'm doing the right thing," and it might have made you
Mhm.
kind of feel that, like, hit of self-worth. So tell me kind of, like, how was that?
Like you get a lot of pats on the back when you do that. Like you're highly talked about in talks and videos where they say, "Oh, they sacrificed their time. They went out and served." Like you feel good.
Yeah.
And they have songs and even like music videos basically saying, "Oh, they didn't feel like going out in service, but they went out anyway, and look how happy they are."
Oh my
And,
gosh, all this
and
propaganda, right?
yes, and you believe it. You're like, "I'll go out. I'm having a really crappy day, but I'm gonna go out in service, and it's gonna make everything better."
Right, right.
It's like
Wow.
it's like that. So that's basically how it was. You just kind of
Right.
you just kind of did it because you had to. you know,
Right, right. And
had to.
did you get hardly anyone, like, interested or baptized, like, from all of that field service, or was it pretty infrequent?
No. And you would think I would. I spent 70 plus hours a month preaching to
Right,
people. Like,
right.
and I had a few Bible studies. So when you go out, you have return visits,
Mhm.
and then you have Bible studies. Return visits are people when you meet them, they come to the door, they're nice, you write their name down, you say what you placed with them, and you come back. A Bible
Right.
study, you sit down and you really study the Bible teach book with them. I had a few
Gotcha.
of them. It was nice, but none of them progressed to baptism. Most of them would stop
In your
in the
entire
middle.
10 years?
I never had anyone progress to
Wow.
baptism. Yeah, I
See, that
never.
I feel like that says a lot about, like, how, about, just, well, a lot about a lot, but wow, like, for 10 years not getting one baptism, and I imagine that must have been so, frustrating.
And how they get you is they say, well, even if nobody answered the door, they saw you. They're peeping through the windows, and the
You're
people
still
who are walking by, they saw you, so you still gave a witness even though you couldn't witness to them. So they still make you feel
wow.
like you did something, you know.
Wow,
I don't
that's crazy. Feels like you could have done more if you kicked their door down, tell them Jehovah's gonna come kill them if they don't listen to you.
Maybe that will make them listen because they hit. Listen, they hide. People hide. They do not. I would see them walk in, knock on their
Yeah.
door, and nobody would come. I'm like, okay.
Oh yeah, they definitely hide. They do it with Mormons too. And I think
Do
it's
they?
generally because people feel too nice, like they don't want to say no, you know, like
Yeah.
so they'll just not answer. But yeah, I feel you. I feel you.
Yeah.
Um okay, so tell me any other kind of like notable things you want to touch on about like what it was like being a witness, things you liked about it, things you didn't like about it, you know, whatever comes to mind.
Okay. So yeah. So that those were the likes, but as time went
Yeah.
on, there were a few dislikes. Like we said, the guilt, the pressure, also
Yeah.
your self esteem. I didn't realize it, but your self esteem is cut all the time because you're
Oh
constantly
yeah.
told, you're unworthy, you
You're not
know,
good enough. Yeah.
you're not good enough. Like sister so and so works a full time job and she's a regular pioneer. Could you pioneer? And then you sit there and you're just like, Jehovah, I'm so tired. Like I, like, and then you
Right,
feel
right.
guilty, and then you feel like I'm unworthy, I'm sinful, I'm always making mistakes. Jehovah should just kill. Like these are real conversations, and you don't
Yeah.
realize it, but your self esteem is in the toilet. It's
Right.
it's really bad.
It
So
turns into this circular like trap of like
mhm,
your self-esteem is terrible. And then you go out and do all this field service and it makes you feel better about yourself because you're like, "Oh,
mhm,
look, I'm doing such great things for Jehovah." And then it's like and then they kind of hit you with that backhand of like it's not enough and
it's not
you're
enough.
disappointing Jehovah and you go back to feeling bad about yourself, which makes you kick it into high gear again to try
Yep.
to do more and you get it's almost like you get addicted to it. You know what I mean?
You
That's how I
do.
felt about Mormonism.
Yeah, you really do, because then you just like, I have to do more. I have to do more because you get that high, and they announce you from the platform when you do something like regular pine.
Oh my
They tell,
gosh.
they'll say, Sister Raejene is now a regular pioneer, and everybody's like, yay, and everybody's like,
Wow.
it's a pillar in the congregation.
Right.
Everybody trusted me with their kid. Everybody wanted me to study with their feet. Like it's crazy.
Right, right. Yeah, that totally makes sense to me. So tell me more about things that started to kind of make you question or gave you a hard time about it. Oh, and
Well,
actually, before I get to that too, I forgot. Sorry to interrupt you. Were you working at this time? And I know that they tell you, I think they, as far as I know, like they say field service is more important than working, right?
mhm.
But like you have to survive somehow.
We're not supposed to talk about like it's, it's like cost of living is high. They tell you that Jehovah will take care of you. You just have to pray. When I pioneered, I was a school bus driver. So you would work from 5 to 9. I would go out in
Mhm.
service from 9:30 to 1:30, and then I would drop the kids off home from 2 to like 5. It was a perfect
Gotcha.
thing. But the problem is with this is you end up taking jobs that are very low paying.
Right,
Um,
right.
a lot of witnesses don't have higher education, and they will take jobs where they're washing windows, something
The
very,
window washers, yes.
yes,
That's like
something
it's
very,
a for people who don't know, it's a stereotype about Jehovah's Witnesses because they're like, Jesus is coming back. There's no reason to get a degree. There's no reason to go to school. You need to be saving souls. That should be your priority. And
mhm.
so they joke about them being window washers, like just jobs that you don't have to be trained for.
To be fair, there are videos that I could show you where most of them are either working in some type of office job or they are window washers or something like that. So
Right,
there's a
right.
reason why people say it.
Oh man, and I had a friend that was a Jehovah's Witness too, and he told me that his mom told him like, "You don't work, like God will provide for you. Like if you have to eat out of someone's bird feeder, then you can do that." And I was just, "Oh my God."
But they really, and that's the funny thing, they really believe it. And I did too. I was a regular pioneer. I worked this job that paid me $500 every 2 weeks. I lived
Yeah,
on my own, so I had to pay. Oh, I had a roommate, but my rent was four
right.
fifty. So one paycheck covers my rent, but it doesn't cover all the
And
utilities, food, gas, none of it. Like
you're
you
just
constantly,
barely getting by.
not even. I had to ask the
Yeah,
friends for help. I had to,
yeah.
ask my family who I barely talk to for help.
Man, that's crazy. Yeah,
and
that's
they
impossible to live on. That's a
and they keep telling you to pray. They're like, just keep praying. Jehovah's gonna provide for you. He's gonna make a way. And I
right.
prayed. I prayed. Mm-mm.
Oh man, that's so awful. And like I hate that just that pressure of like just like you're not supposed to do anything to fix your circumstances. Like you're just supposed to wait around for God to like white knight you, you know?
Somehow,
And
it was randomly like people would believe that God would literally like just miraculously just something like a bill would just disappear or
yes, yes.
like like
Yeah.
stuff like that. And then when you actually get a job where you are getting paid well and you do less service, people tend to treat you differently. So it
Yeah,
was
yeah.
a lose lose situation.
There's no winning. Yeah,
There's
it
no
was
winning.
similar in Mormonism where it was like pay your tithing first, which Mormons they tithe on 10%. 10% of your income. That's a lot. And
Oh,
it's like you have to pay it first. They tell you pay it first. And it doesn't matter if you can't afford your bills, like you pay it first and then God will provide for your family. So very similar, like very unhealthy. Cause I'm like, wouldn't God want me to feed my kids first? I don't
they
know.
tell you not to think like that, but in my mind, I said, I think God would want me to get a job that I can, live.
Nope, nope, not when you could save 0 souls in 10 years of service.
Zero. In 10 years,
Oh,
zero.
oh
And
gosh,
I
that's
joined a foreign language, still zero.
what language were you doing? Oh, you're doing ASL, weren't
ASL.
you? Oh,
ASL.
well, wait for it, wait for it. I'm learning it a little bit.
Are
Um,
you?
that's what I tried to say, learning.
I got it. Learn. ASL.
Okay.
Okay, you know ASL. Okay.
Um, yeah, people are just gonna have to learn ASL for this part of the video. Um, okay, me and my son uh sign together. Anyway,
Oh, how old is
uh,
your son?
he's 4. Um,
Oh,
yeah, he just was it like fun. It's just fun for him. He likes it.
that's so
Yeah.
cute. That's so
I know,
cute.
he's so cute. He's like, "My favorite color, orange." It's so cute.
Oh,
I
I love
know.
I
Oh,
love
that's
seeing
so
people
funny.
sign. I still love the language. I'm actually in school for it. So
Oh, are you gonna do interpreting?
yeah,
Oh my god.
I
Interpret
have to because they wasted like 10 years of my life. So the least I can do is make money off of it. So
Oh my god. I imagine, like, I've heard about how hard it is when Jehovah's Witnesses leave because they have no skills for
skills,
work and
none.
no family to help provide for them. So it's
Nope.
like and with the cost of living rising so much, it's like it puts you in an impossible situation. We'll get to
And that's
that.
what they
Yeah.
want. Yeah, okay, that's what they want. Yeah, okay, yeah.
Yeah, 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 we'll get to that. Okay, so tell me, yeah, kind of anything else, like, as far as, like, what else was jumping out at you, like, issues that were arising in your own personal journey, in your own thinking, whatever
I
was
think
going on.
it was like two more things. I think the one thing I noticed is that there was a lot of talk about new light.
Oh my gosh. Explain. I know what that is. Explain for people who don't know what that is.
So new light is when witnesses believe something previously that turned out to be false. Like for instance, they believed that the end of the world was going to happen in 1914. But then when 1915 came and nothing happened, they explained it away by saying that that year is significant, and they changed it to new light, meaning, oh, it wasn't the end of the world. It really was, that's when Jesus became king in heaven. So it's still a significant, and it's like they build on top of, so failed prophecies all of a sudden is not failed, but we have new light. We can see it clearer now. I don't know. Wrong. Say you were wrong. So that was one.
Oh.
And it's crazy. It's crazy. That's one.
So new light is kind of the equivalent in Mormonism of like doctrine or policy changing. Well, they say doctrine doesn't change, policy changes. So it's kind of like God coming to the governing body, which is like the equivalent of ours elders, like of the brethren of the church, coming and saying to God, saying to them, just kidding, right? Or like, here's some new info, kind of like something
it's
like that,
we
right?
previously believed this, but now we have new
light.
And now it's this.
Exciting. Okay, like, so okay, so you said there was you were saying that new light started to bother you. I can't remember. Did you give a specific example of an instance?
So for me, the one that got me thinking, that made me start to question things heavy, was the generations teaching. There was a book in the 90s called the Proclamation Book that every witness had to go through. And basically the belief was in the 90s, like I want to say like 1970s, maybe 1980s, I want to say, they believed that before that generation of people died, the end would be here.
Oh.
So what happened is now we move forward to when this book came out in like 2018, I think, 2019. This new book came and it said that generation has passed away and yet the end is still not here. So they changed it to, it's an overlapping of generations. So it's like it's the generation, but there's also a generation that was still alive during that generation. So they overlap. And then it's not until that generation dies that
oh
the
my
end
gosh. So here's what happened. They shot themselves in the foot, and then to fix it, they just shot themselves in the other foot.
Yes.
Because like, that generation is gonna die, and that, I mean, unless Jesus comes back and kills me, which is right. What should happen by then. So we'll see. We'll see
what happens. I'll take my chances out here. I said, listen, I'll take my chances.
I'll take my chances. I like birthdays.
I was like, what? What are you talking about? I'm like, that's not the definition of a generation.
Oh like, my gosh.
I'm like, I'm confused.
Wow, that's crazy. Okay, so this kind of got you questioning because you're like, this sounds what? Sketchy? Like, or how did that?
Like, for me, it sounds like, you know, and I apologize in advance. I don't know what other phrase to use, so this is the only phrase I can think of. So hopefully it's okay. If not, cut it out. But it's kind of like they're just covering their, you know. Like,
oh yes, absolutely.
Like, they're just, honestly, they're like, oh, we goofed up. So
right.
Now we just have to fix it. And the sad thing is, people believe it. Right. You're not allowed to question the governing body. So I had to keep my thoughts to myself, but I did question it, and I didn't comment. You study it as a congregation, and you raise your hand and you comment on what you've learned. I didn't raise my hand for a couple of weeks because I didn't understand
Right.
how that. So I just wanted to listen or watch. It was in sign language, but I wanted to just see what everybody was going to say, and it didn't sit right with me. So I was just like, I was like, I'm not getting it. I'm not.
Do
It's
not
not sitting right
understand.
with me.
Oh my gosh. Wow, that's so crazy. I bet so that must have been, did that feel scary to you, or were you just kind of like, I'll figure it out, like it's just not there yet?
You just kind of chalk it up to you needing to do more research. That's what they tell you. If you don't
It's
understand
you that's the problem.
it's,
Right.
it's,
Right.
it's you. It's not them. It's up
Yeah.
to us to do the research that we need to do. Only on jw.org and
I was about to
Watchtower
say.
Online Library, by the way.
Right, right.
But you have to do the research yourself to understand if you don't understand. But you can't just be like, I don't understand and I don't believe it. You cannot do that.
No, because then in Armageddon you're screwed.
You're screwed. And they're going to antagonize you, bring you to the back room. It's not fun. So
Wait, what do you mean? Like in your kingdom hall?
It's a
Or are you
joke.
just joking? Oh, okay.
It's a joke among witnesses. It's like it's a back room in every kingdom hall, where if you get in trouble, you have to go in the back room with like 2 or 3 brothers to basically tell them what you did, and they
Right.
basically like interrogate you.
It's
So
very similar in Mormonism. So you say it's a joke, but they actually do that. And you're making a joke about how they actually do that, right?
yeah, we make a joke about something that is
Gotcha.
very much real. Like that's a real thing.
Yes. I just wanted to clarify. I was like, Mormonism, it's the same. Like, and if someone's meeting with the bishop is what you mean with. If someone's meeting with the bishop, it's because they've done something bad, and so you're all like,
people are nosy too. So witnesses are nosy. So we all be looking like, ooh, you see them go back there? Like, oh, they got in trouble. I wonder what happened.
Right. Oh, it's so bad. It's like so much for like sins being between you and God, right? Or it's just like,
between
no,
you and the elders. Like you have to tell them
oh.
everything. And I went through a judicial meeting before. It's not pleasant.
We should do a separate video talking about that, because if you'd be comfortable, because that is, I'm so interested to hear about that. Okay, so you're on this journey, right? And you're starting to question with a new light. What do you think kind of happened next?
So at that point, I was kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place. And then on top of that, I think the third thing that I disliked is that people make up their own rules with witnesses. So when I had my judicial meeting, I got reproved. Reproved is less than disfellowshipping. Disfellowshipping is you're cut off from the congregation, your family, if they're witnesses, your friends. Nobody can talk to you. Reproof is under that. You can still talk to everybody, but you can't comment and you can't give talks.
Wow. Yeah, we have a similar.
But they announce you from the platform. So they'll say, Sister Raejene has been publicly reproved, and everybody knows that you did something. And anyway, they know you did something.
Wow.
So that got announced. And so all of a sudden, everybody who looked at me like I was this pillar was suddenly looking at me like I was, like, I don't know, a heathen. Like I was
trash.
I don't know. My best friend stopped talking to me. It was crazy. And when I asked her why, she said, well, you're bad association. And I was like, if I was bad association, Jehovah would have removed me from the congregation, but he didn't. I got reproved. So why are you doing this to me? And she was like, well, you still got reproved. So, and I'm like, but that's not what the Bible says. And that's when I realized people live by their own thinking. You know, we're not as unified as the governing body makes it seem like.
Yes, yes.
It's not
There's
that.
all this like nuance, like
Mhm.
within. Yeah, I
A
see. I
lot
see.
of it. So that's when I was just like, So when I started realizing that some things weren't sitting right with me, you kind of, I did research and I prayed and I
Right.
still wasn't getting answers. So you kind of, your zeal goes down and you kind of, I just stopped going to, I just kind of stopped going to meetings, or if I did go,
Right.
I would cut my camera off. Oh, sorry, this is during COVID, so
Gotcha. Gotcha.
everything was on Zoom. So I would go to the meetings, but I would cut my camera off and I wouldn't be present
Right.
at the
Right.
meetings. And I kind of thought you tell yourself you're just tired and you're just
I see. I see. It's like subconsciously, it's like, yeah, I understand.
yeah, like the cognitive dissonance is real. Like you really are just
Oh yeah.
it's like things are hitting you that things aren't right, but you keep telling yourself, no, 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 things are right. It's me. I have to do more research. I'm
I
tired.
have
Let
to
me get
try
my energy.
harder.
I gotta
Yeah.
try harder. I gotta do more. I gotta go out and service more. It's me. It's me. You know. So
Right. Right. So then where do you feel like things kind of escalated from there?
I did this for months. You know, people started to they stopped reaching out to me because before they would say, I didn't see you on camera. But then that kind of stopped. And then I came across a TikTok video on
Oh.
that had the hashtag ExJW. And in the
Oh.
video, normally I just keep scrolling. This is not the first time, but normally I just keep scrolling. But she brought up a question about the generations teaching, and that hit me because I was like, I too questioned that.
And
So
that was
I
the
said,
thing you explained to me about the new light about overlapping generation. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
yeah. So once I saw that video or I saw that question, normally I keep scrolling, but that time I said no.
You
I'm gonna listen to it. And the video was 3 minutes, and I listened to it. And she gave a lot of she showed what the Jehovah's Witnesses say, and then she also gave you know um, some pointers that she researched online, and she brought it all into the 3 minute video, and it was so informative. And that's
wow.
when I was like, that's a satisfying answer. And that's when I was just like, my mind literally exploded. I was just, and mind you, it's like 2 a.m. I'm literally sitting there
Wow.
like, that makes so much sense. But why?
Right, right,
Like, and I just went down a
right.
rabbit hole. I watched all of her videos. I watched
Oh
all of
my
her friends'
gosh.
videos. I was up till 7 a.m. I did not go to work that day. I
Wow.
I cried all night. I cried when I woke up. I just
Right, right.
because your whole world just comes
Crumbled.
it's crumbling. And then I started to realize I wasted 10 years of my life.
Wow.
Like you wasted 10 years of your life. I told myself I was never gonna have kids. I was 27, so that's too old for marriage. Like my chances of finding
Oh,
a husband was slim. Everybody gets married in before the age of 25. So
wow. Yeah.
I'm 27. I wasn't going to find anybody like that, most likely. So I accepted that I was going to be alone. I accepted I was going to have no kids. I accepted all of that. And to realize that 10 years ago, I could have had the life that I've always wanted, and I wasted
That
10 years, it broke my heart. Like that, it was soul crushing. I'm not going to lie. It was pretty bad.
oh,
Pretty bad.
absolutely. It must have been just devastating.
Very
I
devastating.
I can only imagine, especially like your situation was so different than mine because, I was born into Mormonism, but you joined. And so I imagine that regret felt even heavier
And you feel so embarrassed. You feel like my whole family, even though they're very supportive of me, they were happy to just have me back. But it's still embarrassing because everybody was looking at you like you joined a cult. And I pushed everybody away for this thing that wasn't even real. And now everybody's looking at me like, oh, poor you. Oh, you feel stupid. You feel dumb. How did how did we get here? How did I fall for this? You
Absolutely, absolutely. It must have been so hard. So that night, that morning that you're watching all of this, do you feel like you were convinced all of a sudden that it wasn't real, or was it still kind of a gradual process of like, wait, maybe it's not what it says it is, or like how kind of was that hitting you?
It was enough to make me know that something was definitely wrong and that something wasn't right. From there, I did more research. That's when I graduated to ExJW YouTube, where they have people like Lloyd Evans, people who show receipts from Watchtower and talk about it. That's all they do. Or people who give their experiences, it's a beautiful thing to go through. And I learned so much that I was like, oh my gosh. And then going to jwfacts.com, that's when they give you more information from jw.org. So you could always say it's coming from the governing body. It's their own words. And I do look them up. And you just gradually just realize, wow, I made a mistake. This is not real. And it took a minute. It took about 4 or 5 months before I said anything to my friends. It was a while.
So were you still like going to church while you're like reading all this stuff and watching all these videos? Did you feel guilty? Did you feel guilty watching the videos? Like, I shouldn't be watching this, or how did that feel?
You feel conflicted. It's like you want to keep watching it because you're finally getting the answers to the questions that you've always been asking yourself, that the society has not been able to answer for you. But you also feel guilty because you're just like, what if they're lying? What if what if I'm being misled and this is exactly what they said will happen? They said that don't listen to apostates. They're liars. They're spiritually diseased. They're mentally diseased.
Yeah, I know. I've heard that. Yeah, and for people who don't know what you're talking about, it really it's so much more intense than it is in Mormonism. Because with Mormonism, it's like, oh, they just wanted to sin. They didn't really believe. Satan got to them. But with Jehovah's Witnesses, they will literally say you are mentally diseased. Like there's something wrong with your brain. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's terrifying. It's terrifying.
Because they have it in their minds that this is the truth. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. So if you leave, something is wrong with you. It's nothing wrong with the organization. So
exactly. It's a perfect organization. And so you just got to blame any issues on the members.
On the members. It was all their fault, So you do feel guilty, but you also feel I felt a sense of relief.
Like the guilt's starting to come off because you're like, oh wait, maybe I don't have to feel bad about this.
So I don't have to feel bad about this anymore. Like I don't, because you're carrying around a lot of guilt all the time. So I no longer felt guilty if I decided not to preach to people, and I didn't feel guilty if I missed a meeting. And
wow, that must have been.
It was great, but it was also devastating, because you realize, wow, you really wasted time. So I had to go to therapy. I had to get help because your mind is so messed up and you don't even realize it until you leave. It's crazy.
Right. You don't. Yeah. I think I love that. And I, one of your TikTok videos, it's pinned to the top of your thing if people want to find it. I love how you talked about that of like, you don't realize how much of your personality is lost when you're part of an organization like this, because so much of their doctrine and teachings end up defining you, and then you lose who you are. And I thought it was so beautiful how you talked about that. And how I'm so happy for you that now you're on that journey to find yourself, because holy cow, some people spend their whole life being a Jehovah's Witness, and like we're sending them hugs, right? And hopefully more and more
Especially
people start leaving.
all the hugs, because if you were born
Yeah.
in, it's even worse because you really don't know. You never had the opportunity because they tell you you have to strip yourself of the old personality and put on the new personality. And they tell you what that new personality is supposed to be and what
Yeah.
it's supposed to look like. So then you be that, but is it really you?
Right.
Then you leave and you realize, no, that isn't me.
Oh my gosh, that's so crazy. So tell me what it was like after the 4 months, and by that point, are you like pretty sure you're like, I need to get out, like this is not real? And how are you feeling about your friends in the church?
Scared is the only word I can use. And that's not an exaggeration. I was genuinely scared because there's no easy way to leave the witnesses. You can leave, but you're going to lose everybody you know and love in that process. So then you have to ask yourself, is it worth it? Should I stay and pretend like I believe when I really don't? Or should I leave and lose everyone I love, but get myself and my freedom back? And that's not an easy, those are your only options, by the way. You don't have any other options. These are your options. So I'm genuinely scared. I'm like, how can I do this? And my friends know me really well, so they could tell if I was out of it. So I
Yeah.
didn't want to be around my friends because I knew they would find out. And then they kept inviting me. They were like, "What's going on with you? Why are you acting funny?" And it's hard to keep on a front. It's exhausting. It's exhausting. And then they would have conversations about spiritual things. And I've done all my research on those spiritual things and realizing that it's all lies and I can't say nothing. And it's just like you have to make a choice and you have to live with that choice. And I chose to leave. And I knew what that meant. And it sucked. I told my friends first. I chose to believe that they would not do what they did because I felt like we were close enough to where we were family.
Yeah.
Like a few of them I've known for 10 years.
Right.
So
Right.
I'm like, they're not going to cut me off if I explain to them, why I'm leaving and it's to make me happy. They'll still keep in touch with me. And
Right.
I was
Right.
shocked when I told them, and I didn't get a lot of response back.
Hmm.
Um, Unfollowed on Instagram and Facebook, and people talking
Yeah.
about you now, sending screenshots of your messages to everybody. They really
Wow.
quickly turn their backs on you, and you realize they never were your friend to begin with.
Oh man, that's such a deep betrayal. Like, and when you were so afraid and yet so hopeful, like, no, they're not going to do that to me. Like, there's no way, because our bond is too strong. And then
Strong.
to be stabbed in the back, and like, not to diss on them because this is their conditioning, but how hurtful that was to you, I can only imagine. Like, that must have been so, so devastating.
It is, and then to them, it's normal. It's like, oh, you don't want to serve Jehovah? Okay, well, I have to cut you off. And I'm just like, is that it? Is that all that it took? 10 years of friendship. That's all. That's all it takes. Just that. I was like, I'm still the same person. They were like, well, you're not serving Jehovah, so you're not the same person. And I'm
Yeah.
just like, but I am.
Right. Right.
So it was hard. I think I cried a lot
Yeah.
um, with that. I think only one of them talked to me to this day, and he still doesn't talk to me on a regular. It's only like once every 2 to 3 months, just to
Gotcha.
say hey, and that's it. Yeah.
So tell me timeline where this is. Are we July of last year that this is going on, or somewhere around there?
Yep, this was like early July of last year. This is all happening. I'm losing all of my friends, and you start to see that your Instagram followers go down, which means it's more than just your friends that know. Your friends know, and they told people because now they're unfollowing you. So the shunning is real.
Right, and it just goes
So
out and out.
my therapist said I just need to be proactive and delete everybody myself, which I did.
That's actually, I love that advice because then you don't have to deal with that rejection over and over and over again.
Repeatedly, yeah.
That's so hard because rejection is so hard to deal with, and especially when you're leaving such a toxic situation. And I mean, they were your family, they were your whole life, and to try to walk away from them and then to be so hurt is just like, it's crazy. It's no wonder that people find it so hard to leave. You know, they make it, I mean, it can't be harder than that. I love the way you framed up this, like, you're left with this decision of, I can stay and be fake and keep all of these people that I love in my life, or I can have my freedom and lose everyone. And it's just like, God, that is like the worst decision to have to make. It's awful.
There's no third decision. These are the. I searched for one. Trust me, I searched for a third. There's no third. They make sure you can leave.
Yeah.
You just want to lose everything in the process.
You're right. There was no other option.
There was no other
And
option.
I commend you for having the strength to choose yourself, because ultimately, what else can you do? Like that, that is so rough.
I can't be fake. So I knew I couldn't last anyway. But even if I tried, they would see through it. They would see through it. So.
Right. And that's probably a really beautiful thing about you, of like, you're genuine, you know, and that's probably why Jehovah's Witness, being a witness couldn't last more than 10 years, you know, like,
Right.
because it wasn't, you know, it wasn't congruent with your identity. So tell me, like, what it was like kind of after the fact, after all the shunning and everything, like a whole new world is open up to you. And I'm sure it's like really bittersweet, you know. Tell me any notable kind of experiences with that. And also, and we'll get to this too, but I'll ask if you have tips for people in a similar situation that have, you know, left or considering leaving, you know, advice to them as well.
Yeah. You definitely feel lonely. You know, I'm not gonna lie. You feel very lonely because remind you've been programmed to believe that the outside world is evil. Even though you left, that programming is still in there. So you leave, you can't talk to none of your friends because none of them will talk to you, but you still are kind of scared to socialize with the outside world and you don't know where to begin. So
Yes. It must be so daunting.
it's daunting. You feel very alone and lost. You don't know who you are. You don't know who you can trust. You don't know who you can talk to. The first couple of months is kind of lonely. I'll say it's kind of lonely, but it does get better. That's one thing I will emphasize over and over and over. It does get better.
Right. Yeah. And the alternative is you spend the rest of your life lying to everyone. So it's like, I guess they're just, it's almost like there really was only one choice ultimately. Like, there's really only one, like, because I think you can really only be Pimo for so long.
I think if you're gonna do Pimo, and this is just me personally, if you have to do Pimo, because some people have to. Some people have no choice. They live with witnesses. They have to be quiet. that has to be a temporary thing. Give yourself a timeline and do what you got to do to get out. But
right.
that's a rough place to be.
For people who don't know what PMO means, it's physically in, mentally out, meaning like you are going to church, but you don't believe it. And I love that you talked about that in your TikTok, again, the one that's pinned at the top of your thing, of like, you have to have an escape plan. You can't just tell them, because if you're living with your parents or maybe your spouse even, like, you can't just up and be like, I don't believe anymore. You have to have like a way to provide for yourself and a place to live, because you might just get kicked out.
Some of them will kick you. There are some JW parents that I've met who are understanding and they wouldn't kick you out, but a lot of them will. They will kick out. I've seen it. They will kick out their kids. So, and they don't care where you go.
Oh God, isn't that so sad? Like,
yeah.
It's just so sad that a religion could exist that would teach you that the right thing to do when your kid doesn't believe is to kick them out of your house.
Like,
it breaks my heart.
Like, how does that make sense?
How is that supposed to help? That's my whole thing, is like, how is it supposed to help? Well, and wasn't it because of, what's his name, Raymond Franz?
Yes.
It was because of him that the shunning policy became way worse, right?
Yes. Once he was a governing body member. So governing body is like the elite of the elite. They are the ones who make the rules and has all the, they're the big guys. He was a governing body member. He realized that it was fake, and he can see it from eyes that we can't. So he left. He wrote a book called Crisis of Conscience. Oh, you got it. Crisis of Conscience. That is a great book. He reveals so many gems there. And I think the witnesses found out about it. And from that point, they escalated it for a period of time. The shunning
policy. Yeah.
Yeah. So like before, it was only if you got disfellowshipped, you would be shunned.
Exactly.
But if you basically left on your own terms, like you just decided, I don't want to be a witness no more, people could still talk to you and it was no problem. After Rae Franz, they instituted that whether you are disfellowshipped or you leave, do not talk to them.
Yeah. And that must have changed everything. It must have been such a huge shift, because being disfellowshipped is so different than leaving of your own free will. And to draw that line is basically to say, like, you literally can't have contact with anyone outside of the religion. Well, and as I understand it, didn't you have New Light also that came out and said that any like unbaptized person you should like not be nice to either, or shun or something? Like they're doubling down basically, right? Instead of like loosening, they're doubling down.
Because they're losing members, and the internet is their worst enemy, because they can't refute the things being said because it's been recorded. You know, the Australian Royal Commission was recorded. I can watch and see what the governing body member said, where he admits that they have files of pedophiles and they don't talk about it. You know, like, you know, it's coming from the governing body's mouth. You know, there's articles that's being screenshotted. You can't refute it. So they're losing members. People are leaving. So their way is scare tactics. We have to double down and say, if you turn your back on Jehovah, you know, that's considered wicked, and you are going to die at Armageddon. There's no hope for you. Mm-hmm. You're just dead, and that's it. So
right. And with that New Light that I was mentioning, wasn't it something like to do with, could you like, do you know what I'm talking about with, wasn't it before, like if someone was attending, but they didn't get baptized and they left, you could still talk with them. But now it was like, if they weren't, it doesn't matter if they were baptized or not, like you need to shun them. Is that interpretation correct?
So it's similar. So basically, before, the belief was if you studied with witnesses and you decided not to pursue it, it was okay, because you could come back later, or if you died, you would be resurrected. Same thing with
Gotcha.
people who were disfellowshipped. If you were disfellowshipped and you died, there was no they basically said that the wages sin pays is death. So there was a chance that you would be resurrected even if you were disfellowshipped, because
Gotcha.
Jehovah can
Gotcha.
read the heart. They changed all of that to be, if you study with witnesses and you don't believe and you don't want to be a witness, like you don't want to be a witness at all, you had your opportunity
And that's
and
it. Oh,
you fail. And if you are disfellowshipped and you die, there's no hope for you. You will not be resurrected. So they switched it up.
this is the doubling down. Okay, I see. I see.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I wasn't quite understanding it. Now I do. That's just wild. Okay. Oh my gosh, we should do definitely more videos about this stuff because it's so interesting. But tell me other thoughts about the last year, what it's been like for you, the ups and downs, and any advice. Like,
I guess the best thing, besides the loneliness and the whole, going down a rabbit hole of information, trying to figure out who you are, learning to trust yourself, because before you could make a decision, you had to consult the watchtowers or the Bible, and now you don't have that, so you have to now rely on yourself, which is not a big deal to most people, but it's a big deal to witnesses because we're not supposed to.
Mormons are the same. Yeah, like it's like I couldn't decide. The simplest decisions would like throw me into paralysis.
Like you really
Anyway,
go through that. You really sit there. It's like I don't know what to do, and you're
yeah,
lost. But the ups is you start to learn. If you take the steps, you start to learn. I do like this. This does bring fun. I started connecting with like old high school friends, and
yeah,
building things up, going to school, something along those lines, which helped
yeah.
me learn society, because that's what you have to do. You have to learn how to be in society as a real human being.
That's gotta be so strange, like, because I don't feel like we're quite as separate as you guys are. So I imagine it is this weird nuance, like this it's just this weird, maybe like awkwardness of like, how do I make friends? Like
You feel like, how do I make friends? Like, how do I? Is this okay? Is this normal?
yeah,
Like, and you genuinely don't know. You
right, right. Like, sure,
genuinely don't. It's like, is this
yeah,
not good? Like, what should I do? And
right,
there's no answers because you answer for yourself. So you're just like,
right.
it's hard. It's rough. I'm not gonna lie.
It is so hard. It is so hard. I mean, it's the journey of a lifetime.
Yeah.
Learning to trust yourself and honestly learning who you are for like the first time. And I feel like
Yeah.
I guess that's the gift of like we call it faith crisis, like when you leave is that gift of like it forces you to think about what you want and to think about who you are and to think about who you want to be and what you want out of life and those are important questions that I think
Yeah.
some people who maybe have never gone through this experience, maybe, maybe they don't feel like they need to think about those things because maybe they feel like they have it already figured out, but you know, maybe they
Yeah.
don't. I don't know. It's very interesting for sure. Other notable things in the last year of freedom.
That that's the gist of it. Just learning that, and then I also say you got to look at some of the positives of being there, just because you'll drive
Yeah.
yourself insane if you don't. But
Yes, yes. Yeah, you can only like regret it so much. You still love those people. Yeah, I hear you.
you kind of start to see like, okay, they're not, because I was mad at my friends for a while. I guess that was the biggest hurdle. I hated them for a while because
Yeah,
I was like,
of
how dare
course.
you? But then you start to feel bad for them because they're just doing what they think is right.
Yeah.
So you can't fault them. They literally have been conditioned to
Yeah.
think this way. So
Right. It's like, yeah, you gotta let yourself be mad, but then also you have to let yourself move on. Yeah, and I think
you gotta
that's
move on. And that's the one thing about
yeah.
I'm learning with life is it has its hurdles, and you have to keep pushing. you
Yeah.
gotta keep going. So
True that. True that. Okay, tell me about your first Christmas and your first birthday, and then we'll call it a wrap.
okay. Oh my god. So I did Halloween for the first time, which was kind of fun. Just dressed up a little bit. We didn't do much. And then Christmas was my mom was so excited to buy me a Christmas gift. So she was like, look,
Oh,
it was big. It was like a huge present. She wrapped it up. She was like, "Here you go, Merry Christmas." It was nice, but it was also a little weird. I didn't know what to do. I'm not gonna lie to you. I
it's been
didn't
so
know.
long. Yeah, it's been. Did it
I
feel
felt
like awkward, or did you feel
it
guilty,
was
or?
awkward. It was like, should I be joyous? Like, I didn't know how to get the Christmas spirit. I was singing Christmas songs. I was like, okay, but I didn't do a
Right,
tree.
right.
I didn't do a tree. I didn't.
Huh.
I did say Merry Christmas for the first time. It was weird to say. I was like Merry Christmas, and it didn't roll off the tongue like I thought it would.
Mary.
Yeah, Merry Christmas. I'm like, oh. We actually joked about that. Some ex-JW. We were laughing about our first Christmas and how we just didn't know how to say the word like Merry Christmas. Like we didn't know what to do.
I love it. I love it. It
I
just
didn't.
feels so. It's so foreign. It's so foreign.
It's so foreign. And then my first birthday, I left shortly after my birthday. My birthday's in July. So I didn't celebrate my first birthday until a couple weeks ago, and it was great. My boyfriend was with me, and we went to visit my cousin, who was my childhood best friend. So I was able to reconnect with
Aw.
him and his boyfriend. And I couldn't talk to him like
Wow.
that either because they're gay. So
Right, right. And like did you have to shun them, or like, yeah.
So I
Was
had
that
to
so
like
cool to be like, "Oh my gosh, I can just love you," and like
so
not
I never
care?
stopped loving him. That's funny. You never
Yeah,
stop loving your family. But it was just kind of like I had to put God first. So,
right, right.
but now that that was away, I could just love my cousin. So I took my birthday and I drove to Rhode Island, me and my boyfriend, and we spent the weekend with him and his boyfriend. We had a great time. He made me
Oh.
breakfast. We had like vodka, tequila, tequila smoothies, fruit smoothies. It was great. We had an amazing time. We had
That's
fun.
amazing.
It was literally the best. And then, of course, the highlight is falling in love with an amazing man that I never would have met. You know,
How did you meet him?
so what's funny? I want to say in like June or May, once I knew that I didn't want to be a witness no more, I wanted to get back out there. You
Oh
know,
my gosh, because for the first time ever, you have hope that you can find love.
I have hope I can be in a relationship and finally find happiness in marriage and maybe still have some time to pop out a kid. So I'm just
Oh
like,
my
I
gosh.
still got time. So I actually put myself out there and I didn't know what to do because I'm too awkward at this point because I'm
Right, after.
socially.
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
just went on Facebook dating and
I didn't even know that existed, but
it's new. It's new. It was brand spanking new when
oh
I
my
joined.
gosh.
I said, you know what, I'm gonna
They
join.
must have created it with COVID. They were like, "We
We
need."
did because with COVID, I think everything was kind of still shut down too. So people
Right,
were
right,
home all the time. So you have no choice but to date virtually. So I
right.
literally was on there. He hit me up and we were like, we're both very like let's do this. So we were like, okay, let's go out for drinks. Then we go out for drinks, and then we realized we got a lot in common. We're just chatting it for
Yeah.
hours. It felt very natural, and we
Wow.
just kept going on dates and dates. And next thing you know, then we were together. We then we've been together for
Right.
like 8 months. Then we're like, we're moving in together, and now it's a year, and it's like, oh,
Wow.
we're getting married. Like
Woo!
it's like, oh my god! So just literally, I think
Wow.
that's like the biggest. joy, finally getting to have something that I've always wanted that I told myself that I was never going to have.
Oh
So
my God, that's gotta be just absolutely incredible.
it is. It's
Oh
the
my
best
gosh.
feeling. He's great. I love him so much. I could not. And he helped me through this process, by the way. Everything that I told you, he was
Yeah.
there for all of it. So when I'm crying, he's there. When I'm
Oh,
confused, he's helping me navigate society.
yes, yes.
He's been a big rock. I could not have done this without him.
Oh my gosh, what an awesome guy. Well, you have to give him a big hug from me because I'm
Yeah.
grateful that you found him and that you found someone that can just be your person. It's so nice to
Yes.
have a partner in life and someone to build a life with. It's just such a special thing. I'm such a romantic, like I don't know. I'm like I just feel like yeah, I've been with my husband now 9 years and
Oh, nice.
that's a long time and it's hard and
It
but
is
like when you work through it together, like you just love each other more and
more.
you yeah, and it's just like it's so I'm so grateful. I'm grateful that I have someone. I'm grateful you have someone awesome too.
Thank you. Yes. Thank you. So
Yay!
excited. I'm so
Oh my
excited.
gosh. Okay, any other like advice for people before we go? Like advice for people considering leaving or that maybe have recently left? Like,
I tell the same message all the time, and if you guys check out the TikTok, you'll see the same message there. But I reiterate it all the time. Access your situation. Know if you can speak now. If you can't, accept that and just come up with an escape plan. I
very
think therapy because you're gonna need it. That's
yep.
my number. That's the go-to. If you can afford therapy or a
Yeah.
counselor, I highly recommend that because you're going to need it. And
Yes.
do your research. No matter what the governing body says, do your research outside
Yeah.
of Watchtower. Get the
Right. Right.
facts.
Get the
Get
real
the facts.
facts.
Get the real
Yeah.
facts. JWFacts.com is your friend. YouTube, other people's experiences. Check out
Yeah.
TikTok, hashtag ExJW. There's a lot of content on there. Do your
Yes.
research. And then I believe that's the gist of what I would suggest starting off because anything after that, things can get tricky. So,
Yes, that's perfect. And we'll put links to that all below. And yeah, and any other resources that we think of that would be helpful. Ray, thank you so much.
yeah.
I was so thrilled when you messaged me back. I was like, yes, because I've been
I'm just
wanting
sorry
to
it took
interview.
so long. I'm like,
Oh no, no, no.
I saw it late, and then I was just like, this sounds cool. And then I checked you out. I'm like, she's awesome.
That's what I always say too. I know. Like, um,
Like,
I'm
yeah.
just kidding. No, I'm so grateful. I was so excited because I've been wanting an ex-Jehovah's Witness to talk
Yeah.
about stuff with. And I'm so excited I found you and you're so fun to talk with and
Yes.
you're so
You are
genuine. And so I'm really
amazing.
excited to have someone like when I have questions to go to or want to do videos with, I'm like, oh, this is gonna be so fun. This is gonna be so fun.
Yes. I'm always down because this is fun.
Yay!
Fun.
Okay, thank you to everybody for watching this video. Thank you to Ray for all your time to do this video with me. And yeah, we'll see you guys will see her again, hopefully. Peace out.